Okay, so hello and welcome back to another Unity multiplayer tutorial. In today's video we'll be having a look at variable permissions as a way for the server to sync specific data to specific clients and keep it private to them. For this example we'll be using number generation, so the server generates numbers and syncs them with each client, but each client has no idea what each other's number is, and then we can use this in the future to make a card game. Hope you're looking forward to it, so let's get started. As always, if you want access to the project files, you can go down below and there'll be a link to the GitHub repository. So to get started, let's go through the setup I've already done. There's not a lot of it. If we jump into the scripts here, we've simply got a Hello World Manager, which I've taken from the documentation on the quick start, and I've also removed a few of the methods. So we just have here a simple way to start up as a host, client, or a server without having to build up our own user interface. Next, I've got the number generator script, which is just a network behavior that we're going to be filling in, and also a number holder that's a network behavior, and we're still yet to fill that in. And then for the fourth and final script, we have the server network transform. This is just a copy of a built-in component, but we've replaced isOwner with isServer, and I got this from the Unity multiplayer Discord server, and this just allows us to move these objects on the server side and not have any issues. And the reason we do this in the first place is because when we spawn in the players, they're at the origin, and we want to move one of them up and one of them down so we can see each of their numbers. If we head back into Unity now, and we look what we've got in the scene, we've got a camera, network manager, and on the network manager, I've added the player prefab, and all the player prefab is it's a network object because it has to be, and then we've got that server network transform script, so when we move the object on the server side, both clients will see it. And then we also have the number holder, which is empty. And in the scene, we have the number generator, so a network object with number generator. And if we open this up, it's just a canvas with a single button, and the button currently doesn't do anything. We'll hook up this method once we've written it. And one thing I forgot to mention is that in the player prefab, it has a child of TextMesh over here, the TextMesh Pro, and that's just so we can display their number. Let's start off with the number holder script, which basically is just the player script. And I think the first thing we should do here is move it into the right place. We just want to make sure that one of the players is on the top and one is on the bottom so that we can see them both. So what we should do here is override the network start method. So as soon as this object starts existing, if we're on the server side, so if is server, then we want the server to move the player. So we can say, if there's currently one player, put them somewhere, and if there's 0 players, put them in the other place. It's a pretty hacky way of working around this, but it does work for what we need. So if network manager.singleton, and we can get from that a list of all the connected clients, so connected clients list. And if the count is 1, then we'll put them at 3 on the Y, we'll move them up 3 units. So transform.position equals a new vector 3, and we'll do 0, 3, 0. And because we're updating their transform and they've got that transform sync component, everyone will be able to see this change. And then we can just say else, so if there isn't already one player, then we'll put their transform.position equal to, and we'll do 0, -3, 0. Now let's give each player a number to hold. So at the top, we'll add a private. And we're not just going to do an int because we need it to be synced between the server and the clients. So we're going to use the network variable. I've done a tutorial on this. Network variable and of type int. And we'll call it my number equals a new network variable int. Now as this stands, when the server updates my number, everyone will be able to see it. So we're going to leave it like this for now, so we can then do a build and see it working like this. And then we'll come back and also make it private so we can see the difference when we change the variable permission. So we want to update some text when this changes. So let's add a reference to our text. So serialized field private tmp text, and we'll call it the number text. And then if we go down, we want to subscribe to this variable changing and say when it does, update the text. So in start, outside of the server check, because everyone should do this, we'll say my number dot on value changed, and we'll subscribe with handle number changed. And in on destroy, so private on destroy, am I doing this in the right place? Nope, I'm outside of the class. So private void on destroy. we want to unsubscribe. So on value changed minus equals handle number changed. Let's make the callback method for handle number changed. So it's a private void handle number changed, and it's going to take in an int for the old value and an int for the new value. And when we get this new value through, we just want to update the number text to be the new value. And then we need to do .toString to make it a string from an int. We also want a way for this number generator script to actually update the number in here. So let's make a public method, update number, and we'll just take in the new number, and we'll update the network variable. So my number dot value equals the new number. Obviously this new number part has to be called from the server side, so we could do a check here to say if it's not the server return, but we know in our case we're only going to be calling it from the server side, and if a client ever tries to change it, it won't work anyway, so it's fine. And now we need to call this update number method from the server side over here in the number generator. So we can make a method here, which is a server RPC, because the clients need to tell the server they want to generate a new number. And we'll just call it private void generate new number server RPC. And if we left it just as this, then only the owner of this object could call it, and no one actually owns this object. It's kind of a shared object. Everyone will have this button and they can all click on it. So we actually want to change this a little bit. We want to add require ownership equals false. So anyone can do it even if they're not the owner. And if we add a parameter server RPC params, and we set that equal to default, what this will do is we don't have to pass anything through ourselves, but the networking framework will actually let us know which client called this method. So anyone can call it and we can find out who called it. So we can say here ulong sender ID. So the ID of the sender is server RPC params dot receive, and it's the sender client ID. So now we know who wants to generate a new number. And with the ID, we can then go get their game object. So we can say network object, player object. So to get the player's objects, we can ask the network spawn manager to get us the player network object for a particular client ID. So we pass in the sender ID, and now this is on the server side. The server will grab their game object. And the handy thing about this is that the player's object will have the number holder component on it. So just like the normal Unity way, we can say player object dot get component number holder, and then we want to just update the number. And the first thing we want to do is store this in a variable to make it easier, so number holder. And then we want to give them a new number. So we'll call number holder dot update number, and we can pass in a random number or whatever we want, but we want to go with a random. So we'll say here random dot range 0 to 101. You can do whatever you want here. Keep in mind this would be used more commonly in something like a card game where you'd draw a new card from the deck and you'd give them that new card and let them see what it is. And here it's min inclusive, max exclusive. So this will give us a number between 0 and 100. Now this is a private method that's executed on the server side. So for the clients to trigger it from a button press, we'll just make a public version, public void, generate new number. And we can just do this in one line. We can just get that to call generate new number server RPC. So with this, if we'll go back into Unity, let it compile, and make sure we hook up the button press. So I will let it finish, open this up, go to the button, add a new method call, drag in the generator, and call generate new number, wherever that is. There it is. And with this, I'm going to go ahead and go to the player as well. So prefabs, player, and make sure on the player script, the number text is dragged in to the field over here. And now I'll go ahead and give that a build. We're not quite finished there, but I do want to show you what we've got working right now. So I'm running the project in the editor as a server, and then I'm also going to join on each client here, one of them as a client and another one as a client. And if I over here click new number, everyone will see that my number is 85, and every time I regenerate it, everyone will see that change. And same if I go over to the other client, everyone will see their number change too. And what we actually want is the server in the editor to know both numbers, and then each client to only know their own. So we'll head back to the drawing board and make that last little change. If we head over to VS Code into our number holder, we see the network variable is just standard, just default sync and integer. And we want to change the permissions on this. So what we can do is in the parameter over here, we can add a new network variable settings. And I'm going to put this to the next line. And in here, you can change quite a few things. We can change the read permission and the write permission. And if we were to hit F12, you can see whatever else we can interact with here. But in our case, we just want to change the read permission, because by default, write permission is just the server only, though you could change it to be the owner only, or we can change it to be whatever you like. But in our case, we're changing the read to be network variable permission dot, and we get these options. We just want to say owner only. So only the object that owns this, only the client that owns this, sorry, can actually see the updates. Because the server is the server, it will see all updates, but it means that each player won't see the other players. So if I now head back and do one final build and test it all, we'll now have it so that each player can only see their own number update, but the server should see both, which is exactly what you want if you're building something like a card game. Okay, so I'm running as a server in the editor, joining as a client in these two builds, and make sure we can see all the numbers here. So if I hit new number, my number updates, the server sees it too. If I go over here, hit new number, my number updates, the server sees it too, but I never receive updates for the other client's number updating, which is, like I said, exactly what you want in something like a card game, because the server needs to actually process the logic of the game and store all the cards and who's drawing what. But you don't want each player to know what the other player has in their deck or in their hand. So we can actually expand on this in a future tutorial, like I said, to make something resembling a card game. So yeah, that's it for this tutorial. I hope you found it useful and enjoyed, and if you did, then please leave a like and subscribe. Let us know down below in the comments what you want to see next. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye. But of course, before I go, I've got to thank my patrons. A special thanks to Alan W., Francisco Lira, Sahayla, John Janigan Mills, Benjamin Hilder, David McDermott, Evan Maxey, George Pierce, Katinkamom, Lawrence Simpson, Malvin, Mark McCockle, Mike Miller, Rack, Andrew Williams, Theory, and Dario. If anyone else is able to help support the channel monetarily, link to Patreon is down below. If not, there are also links down below to other social media such as Twitch, Twitter, and Discord. If you could help us out by following on any of those or checking any of those out, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.